But I don't think reasonable arguments are good enough in a laboratory school. And so in the film we've just been looking at, we have one kind of teaching and learning activity that goes on that we need to justify on some basis other than just saying this is a reasonable do. We need to know whether we're using our time most effectively, whether the kinds of learnings that we really think ought to be going on in the school are taking place in this particular kind of activity. So I think our basic problem here is to try to find ways of finding out what the youngsters are really learning in this kind of situation.
Well, I think the film showed a lot of learning as far as I was concerned,
Just how much is it really showing? Or what are the children really showing when they play?
You mean just because they're acting it out isn't necessarily a learning?
Well, I feel that it is, but I wish there was some way of proving this.
Well, John, I've been questioning the values of play for a long time for myself. And I have before me a list of at least 30 values which I at one time attributed to play. But now I question them, and it seems to me, for me, I can no longer go on my subjective observation of play, but I'd like to have some means of measuring it objectively.
I think she's also put an important point for any evaluation instrument, which is the setting up of explicit objectives, the things you think it's going to do, and then developing your instrument to see if it is actually doing it.
Now, we've tried before. We set up the things that we thought children would come up with in terms of meanings and generalizations, and then we noted what children said, what they did. And for young children, it's extremely difficult to get around to hear what they're saying and to actually be all over to see everything that's occurring. So one of the major problems is an instrument that will measure the things that we think we are coming up with.
When I said the first one was not a successful play, I realized that I would perhaps be hard put to why I felt it was not a successful play. And this would be the point that I would want to try and evaluate why I felt or would say it was not successful in terms of the children.
She's making an important point because she said her first play was not a successful play. She's obviously basing this on something she sees in the play. It ought to be possible to look at the film of the play, look at the things Janet at least thinks she's seeing, because we ought to be able to observe them too, and then see if they're relevant to the values she's talking about. It would be interesting to have a child also evaluate the same kind of a play situation a teacher did.
And this is precisely what this staff did. Showed the film to the children and listened to their perceptions of the dramatic play.
Walking by looking at them, but everything's too expensive. Things for 1 peso. Carol and Charles are Larry and Charles are arguing.
Over this little dish.
How much did you sell it for?
I came to Steve, and I wanted to buy this little